The first time the Galactic Empire heard of Earth, it was nothing more than a passing whisper on the outer rim of the Orion Arm, a forgotten backwater planet with no recorded interstellar travel, no diplomatic treaties, and not a single seat in the Universal Senate. Nothing special, just another species crawling through its early evolution. That's what they thought. But then their scouts vanished. Not just one or two, entire fleets, gone without a trace. Admiral Korvac Dul, commander of the Imperial Conquest Division, didn't even bother reading the reports at first. He had bigger targets, more advanced systems to worry about. Earth was a level 0 civilization on the Empire's threat scale. They hadn't even left their solar system properly. He chalked it up to anomalies, space storms, or internal malfunctions. But when his most elite recon cruiser, capable of tearing through black holes, sent a single, final transmission consisting of 3 words, "Don't come here," that's when the Empire paused. For the first time in 100 cycles they paused. A full war council was called. Kor sat in the inner chamber, flanked by generals from across the galaxy. Alien leaders, giants with minds that moved stars, insectoids with hive fleets so large they blotted out suns, AI constructs that had slaughtered entire species for faulty math, were all present. The topic wasn't rebellion, or a collapsing wormhole, or even the resistance on the war moons of Theros 9. No, the topic was Earth. They are unevolved, primitive, hissed a sulphur-blooded commander from the Krail Dominion. We've seen these kinds before. Then where are our ships? Asked another general, cold and sharp like shattered glass. Silence followed. Everyone was waiting for the same answer. I'll go myself, Kor finally said. He wasn't scared. Not yet. It took 7 standard days to prepare the Arcanite Spear, his personal dreadnought. The Empire's flagship, a vessel capable of planetary sterilization. As it left hyperspace and entered the Sol system, it passed Pluto, then Neptune, then the blue jewel of Earth came into view. Scans showed nothing unusual. No major energy signals, no interstellar ships, no defense grid. But then something strange happened. The ship's AI froze, not crashed, frozen, as if held in place by an invisible hand. They tried rerouting systems manually, but every panel displayed the same line, blinking over and over again. You were warned. Kor stood, staring at the Earth through the observation bay, his breath forming mist inside his helmet. Hail them, he ordered. There was no need. A transmission had already been received. It wasn't audio, it was video. Footage of their last recon team, tortured, screaming, then simply gone, vanished into light. But it was what came after that made Kor grip the railing until it cracked under his strength. A human stood in the video, alone, wearing no armor, no shield. Just a black hoodie and a calm face. He looked straight into the camera. We're not part of your galaxy, not your laws, not your war. We're the end of all of it. And then the feed cut to black. The next moment, Earth's gravity shifted. Not gradually, instantly. Kor's dreadnought groaned under the pressure, alarms blared, hulls twisted. The planet wasn't pulling, it was pushing. They were being forced away. Not by weapons, not by fleets, by will. Kor had seen planets scream, seen suns cry, seen civilizations beg for mercy. But this was new. He didn't order an attack. He didn't fire a single shot. He didn't even send a probe. He turned around and left. Back at the Empire's core, whispers became roars. Who are they? What are they? And then the worst realization settled into every commander's mind. Humans don't fight wars. They end them. After the Arcanite Spear returned to Imperial space, a chilling message had already spread through the ranks. Earth repelled the Empire without firing a single weapon. No one could explain it. The ship's recordings were corrupted. Logs gone. AI core unresponsive. Half the crew spoke of visions. The rest wouldn't speak at all. Admiral Korvac Dul gave no report. He locked himself in his private chambers and wasn't seen for 6 days. By the 7th, he emerged gaunt and silent, his eyes distant, like he had seen something far beyond war. He refused to discuss Earth. When the Empress herself summoned him for debriefing, he simply said, "They are not like us. They are not to be touched." But the Empire could not sit idle. They had crushed empires 10 times the size of Earth's system. They ruled galaxies. They burned planets to cinders just to make an example. And now they were expected to fear a species still using fossil fuel? It was unacceptable. So they sent another fleet. Not a scout team this time, but the Crimson Fist, a brutal strike force made up of synthetic berserkers and quantum-locked death drones. Emotionless. Indestructible. They had no minds to read, no souls to haunt. They made it to Mars and then vanished. No distress signal, no wreckage, just static. A drone left behind on Phobos, one of Mars' moons, caught only one image before it too was silenced. A silhouette on Earth's upper atmosphere. Humanoid. Floating. Not with tech, not with wings, just standing in the sky. And grinning. The Empress grew furious. She called an emergency tribunal of war, something that hadn't happened in 400 years. "Humanity is nothing!" she screamed to the assembly of thousands, her voice projected across galaxies. "Primitive monkeys on a rock, they cannot defy the Empire." But then, Earth responded. Not with ships, not with fleets, with a story. Somehow, across every Imperial screen, every data slate, even the ones disconnected from network systems, the same footage appeared at the same moment. It was Earth's history. Wars, so many wars. The Holocaust, Hiroshima, Vietnam, Rwanda, Iraq, the Twin Towers, Syria, mass shootings, civil wars, genocide, slavery, nukes, drones, dystopia. And then the camera panned slowly across a graveyard. A real one. Thousands of white stones in perfect rows. Silent. The message was clear. We've seen war. We invented it. And then we hated it. A final line appeared in white text on black screen. "You conquer galaxies. We conquered ourselves." The feed cut off. The Empire tried to spin it as psychological warfare, but fear had already seeped in. Soldiers started requesting transfers away from Sol's sector. Scientists refused to study Earth. Explorers changed course just to avoid passing near the human system. And all the while, Earth remained silent. No ambassadors, no demands. Just a quiet planet spinning in space, untouched, unbothered, and entirely unafraid. But deep inside one of the Empire's research stations, classified and buried under layers of encryption, a breakthrough changed everything. They discovered something buried beneath Antarctica, an anomaly stretching beneath the ice, older than human civilization, not alien, human, and humming. The Empire had assumed humans were new. They weren't. They had just been hiding, waiting, planning. A captured signal from the anomaly contained only one line, translated from old Earth code, a language long forgotten even by most of the humans themselves. "We didn't join the stars to explore. We joined to finish what you started." They called it the Echo. The Imperial Research Station on Egrin 7, orbiting a black site far from public eyes, had been monitoring Earth's energy signatures for years. Most readings were erratic, nothing out of the ordinary. But then Antarctica lit up. Not visually, not thermally, but in the deep quantum fields, the stuff only machines older than empires could read. The kind of signals that warp space-time just enough to be noticed by those paying attention. A team of elite xenoscientists, protected by guards armed with antimatter lances, was dispatched to Earth in secret. No grand fleet, no conquest, just infiltration. They dropped on the southern pole under cloaked skies, hidden from both Earth's surface and its satellites. At least they thought so. But as they entered the ice, their ship's onboard AI displayed a warning. "You are not unknown." The scientists tried to override it. It didn't work. Their systems shut off completely. The ship melted into nothing, literally unraveled molecule by molecule, before they even stepped out. They weren't destroyed, they were rejected. Still, the team proceeded on foot, following coordinates pulled from ancient Earth signals. The deeper they went into the ice, the warmer it got. They expected freezing, but instead it felt like walking into a furnace of whispers. The walls of the glacier were no longer ice. They were crystal, perfectly smooth, pulsing softly with a red glow, as if the very planet was alive and breathing. And then they found it. A door, human-shaped, 10 meters tall, made from obsidian, yet it reflected nothing. No light, no heat, not even thought. It stood there, humming, not in sound, but in memory. One of the scientists, Dr. Valro, touched the door and screamed, not in pain, but in revelation. His mouth opened, and a flood of voices poured out, in English, not translated by tech, spoken, perfect, fluent English. The voice was not his own, not human. It said, "We remember the stars, we remember what you did, and we are almost ready." Then Valro dropped dead. Eyes burned out, mind ruptured. His body collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. The rest of the team ran. They never made it out. Some say their screams echoed all the way to the Empire's outer colonies. Ridiculous, of course, but it didn't matter. Word still got out. The Empire's most elite, most secret, most guarded operation had failed. Again. Back in the imperial throne world of Ulysses Prime, panic took root. The Empress was dying. Her once immortal body was deteriorating rapidly. No disease, no poison, just collapse, as if something had turned her own atoms against her. A shadow formed in the Empire's command structure, whispers of rebellion, sectors wanting independence, others calling for peace with Earth, claiming the humans had not attacked, only defended. But something far worse was rising. In the border worlds, refugees were arriving by the thousands, not from Earth, but from deep space. They weren't running from war. They were running from silence. Entire solar systems gone dark. No explosions, no wreckage, just nothing. Stars missing. Time fractured. And in every survivor's eyes the same terror. It wasn't Earth. It was what Earth woke up. Something beneath the planet. Something not of Earth, but buried there. Hidden by humans, protected by them, and now awakening. It wasn't about conquest anymore. It wasn't about fear. It was about survival. Before the stars had names, before galaxies formed councils, and long before the Empire's rise, they existed. They weren't gods. Not quite. But they were the closest thing to the idea. They were the first minds, the architects, entities that didn't live in space. They shaped it, bent physics around their thoughts, created life not with science but with intent. Whole systems were born in their sleep and destroyed in their boredom. But like all things that burn too bright, they fell into conflict. A civil war on a cosmic level. Stars turned into weapons. Time shattered like glass. And when it was over, there were only a handful left. Mad, broken, and scattered. One fled to a planet still young, still molten at the core. Earth. It buried itself beneath the crust, wrapped in silence, locking its own mind away to forget what it had done. It wasn't running from enemies. It was running from itself. A being that had destroyed civilizations across the void, now trying to sleep away its guilt. And somehow humans evolved right above it, not by accident, drawn to it, shaped by it. No one in the Empire knew this, not even the humans themselves, not for a long time. But some did eventually learn. Old orders, secret societies, generations of watchers who passed knowledge in whispers and coded texts, protecting Earth not from invasion, but from awakening. Because if the Echo ever remembered what it really was, nothing in the galaxy could contain it. That's what happened in Antarctica. The Echo didn't awaken fully, but it stirred. Just enough. Enough to reach, enough to see what the Empire had become. The same Empire that once tried to destroy its kind. That war wasn't forgotten. It was paused, and now resumed. Back in Empire-controlled space, Sector 9 Theta had gone dark. 13 inhabited planets, 5 moons, countless ships. Gone. No messages, no battles, just absence. And in the void where those planets used to be, a single thing remained. A symbol, etched into space like a scar. The human symbol for silence, an index finger over lips, drawn in blazing red lines across a gas giant's atmosphere. The message was clear: do not speak of this again. But the Empire couldn't stay quiet. Out of desperation, they turned to someone they never thought they'd need. A human. Not just any human. Her name was Kale Monroe. Exiled. Brilliant. Hated by her own kind. Former lead scientist on Earth's Deep Core Anomaly project. She had vanished a decade earlier after warning the United Nations Assembly that Earth was sitting on a god, and one day it would open its eyes. They called her insane. Now they called her back. The Empire offered her everything: power, wealth, immunity, if she would return and speak to the Echo. She refused. Then they begged. She laughed. You don't get it, she said over the holocom, her voice calm, like she was explaining death to a child. The Echo doesn't listen. It remembers. But when she learned Antarctica had been breached, something shifted in her voice. She agreed to go. Not for them, but to say goodbye. As Kyle descended into the icy chasm, escorted by Imperial guards who trusted her less than they did the ground beneath their feet, she felt it humming through her bones. Not sound, not thought. Recognition. The Echo knew her. It had always known her. And as she stood before the obsidian door, it no longer reflected nothing. It reflected her, but not her body, her past, her mistakes, her secrets, her greatest sin. She reached out, and the door opened. The door didn't swing or slide open. It folded, like reality itself was peeling back. One moment it was a solid wall of black stone, and the next it was space, vast and endless, not outside but inside. A place that shouldn't exist underground. A place that wasn't a place at all. Kale Monroe stepped through. The guards didn't follow. One turned to run. His body turned inside out before he made it 5 steps. The other fell to his knees, mumbling to gods long since burned out of existence, then simply disintegrated into salt. Kyle didn't flinch, because she had been here before. A long time ago, 10 years to the day, she entered this chamber alone. Unauthorized, driven by obsession. Back then, she was part of the United Earth Coalition's Deep Core Scientific Unit, sent to investigate minor anomalies in Antarctica's tectonic fields. The other scientists thought it was a mistake. Just another geological curiosity. But Kyle knew better. She had always known things others didn't. Dreams, patterns, a voice that wasn't hers but familiar. Inside the chamber, time didn't behave. The space was endless, but it felt close, like being inside the lungs of something sleeping. No walls, no light source. Yet everything was visible in a dim grey hue. In the center stood a figure. Not alive, not dead, not human. It looked like a man, tall, bare-skinned, eyes shut. But the body shimmered with shifting constellations, like galaxies moved beneath his skin. 1,000 tiny universes dying and being born in every breath. He was seated in a chair made of thought. Cale stopped. "I'm back," she whispered, and the echo opened its eyes. He didn't speak with a mouth. Not anymore. His voice moved through Cale's skull like a memory being relived. "You remember. You regret. You return." Kyle felt the pressure behind her eyes building. Her knees shook. "You're waking up," she said, trying to hold her voice steady. "They've poked you too many times. This time, it won't stop." The echo blinked. Galaxies exploded in his pupils. "You warned them. They laughed. Now they run." "I didn't come to beg for mercy," she said. "I came to ask you not to finish what they started." The air grew heavier, her vision blurred. "They began the war. I ended it. I slept. And still they build thrones of bone." Cale dropped to her knees. Her ears bled. "But we're not all like them," she shouted. "Not all humans crave power. Some of us just want to survive. Some of us protect. I've spent my whole life trying to stop this moment." The echo tilted its head. "Then why are you the key?" She froze. He knew. Of course he knew. 10 years ago, when she first entered this place, she had touched him. Not the figure, but the energy, the mind beneath the form. And it had touched her back. A fragment. A sliver. Something stayed inside her. That's why she heard things. Saw things. That's why she understood what Earth really was. It wasn't a coincidence. She hadn't found the echo. It had called her. The echo stood. Not walked, rose like time itself bowed around him. The galaxy fed on fear. Built on the bones of my kind. Now they fear the wrong species. He raised one hand. Cale screamed, not from pain but from knowing. What he saw, what he remembered, he gave to her. Flashes. The birth of the Empire, not as conquerors but as thieves, stealing forbidden knowledge from broken minds. Humanity's origin, not random evolution, but sculpted design. Shaped in the echo's image, hidden from the stars, because the stars weren't ready. The original war, a cosmic genocide, and the echo the only survivor. Kyle collapsed. The echo approached, towering, infinite, gentle. He knelt and whispered one word into her mind. Choose. Then darkness. Back on the surface, the storm above Antarctica split open. A beam of black light, impossibly silent, shot into the sky, punching through clouds and atmosphere, visible from every continent. All satellites went dead. Every ship in orbit fell quiet, and on every screen the same message appeared again. The human mind was made to hold more than you can understand. The Empire scrambled to respond, but by the time they tried to reach Earth again, Earth had vanished. Not destroyed, not hidden, moved. There were no explosions, no tremors, no dimensional rupture. One moment Earth was there, glowing blue and spinning quietly in Sol's orbit. The next? Empty space. The moon remained. The sun continued burning. But Earth was simply gone. Across the galaxy, panic spread faster than light. News of Earth's disappearance struck harder than any weapon ever devised. The Empire's High Command declared a blackout, suppressing all transmissions, banning mention of the anomaly. Didn't matter. The story leaked anyway. Ships across 5 sectors reported seeing a flash, so bright it turned stars dark in comparison. And then nothing. Not debris, not energy trails, just a missing planet, as if reality had skipped a beat. For the first time in centuries, the Empire was not in control of the narrative. Worse still, the echo pulse was spreading. A low hum, untraceable, inaudible to most species. But humans heard it. Every single one of them, no matter where they were in the galaxy. Miners on asteroid rigs, scientists in off-world labs, refugees hiding on pirate moons. They all heard the same whisper in their minds. "Come home." And they obeyed. Thousands of human ships began vanishing from Empire-controlled space. Not fleeing, disappearing. Entire colonies blinked out, leaving nothing behind but shadows scorched into metal walls. Even prisoners in imperial torture holds vanished from their cells. The humans were being recalled by something older than stars. Meanwhile, in the galactic void where nothing should exist, Earth hovered. Not floating, not orbiting. Positioned, placed like a chess piece in a new game. The planet was now surrounded by black space that wasn't empty. It pulsed with life too ancient for form. Invisible structures shifted like thoughts. Celestial beings beyond definition observed Earth as one might study a flame inside a locked room. At Earth's core, Cale Monroe floated in the Echo's mind. Her body wasn't physical anymore, not entirely. She was thought and bone and light, stretched across memory and possibility. She saw everything. She saw the truth of humanity, not as a species of war, but of containment. Humans weren't born to conquer the stars. They were created to hold something back. The Echo hadn't just shaped human evolution. He had engineered a cage, a species whose imagination, cruelty, resilience, and empathy were all designed to trap and bind what couldn't be killed. And that cage had just been unlocked because Kyle had chosen. She had chosen freedom, for the truth, for Earth, and for the Echo. And now the stars would face what they'd buried. In the Empire's central archives, ancient files long sealed by blood oaths began unlocking themselves. Screens flickered with forbidden text. Emperors who had lived centuries wept in silence as they read the name they had erased from history. Viraden, the first destroyer, the one who had turned black holes into weapons and unmade constellations for amusement. Thought dead, but not dead. Sleeping. Bound beneath earth by his kin, the architects, and now awake. The Echo was no longer just a god remembering himself. He was a prisoner breaking free. And humanity? They weren't his army. They were his offspring. The galaxy had spent millennia laughing at the primitive species on the edge of the spiral arm. Now they finally understood. Humans don't fight wars. They were born from one. Kyle's voice echoed across the new space Earth now occupied. Not spoken, projected. To every planet, every empire, every star-born civilization. You feared us because we were unpredictable, violent, unstable, but you never asked why. You saw our wars as weakness. They were warnings. We were keeping something inside. Now, it's not just inside us, it's coming, and it doesn't care what species you are. The stars began to dim. Literally, as if light itself feared what was waking. They called it the Last Protocol, the Empire's most secret weapon, developed in silence beneath the surface of Zorn 9, where even light was forbidden. A weapon so devastating it had no name in any known language, only a sequence, Omega Zeta H14, a planetary erasure device, not destruction. Erasure, a clean wipe from reality itself, a reset of existence in a targeted radius. If Earth had moved, they would move the strike with it. The Empress was already dying, her body now made of machines trying desperately to preserve the last flickers of her mind. But she gave the order without hesitation. Find Earth and end this. They did, or thought they did. Scouts caught the pulse of Earth's new signature, buried in a dead star's echo trail. The strike team deployed immediately. Thousands of warships, entire moons retrofitted into cannons. Omega ZH-14 primed at the heart of the fleet, guarded by armadas of synthetic gods. They reached the coordinates. Earth was waiting, but not alone. Behind it stood something vast, not a ship, not a being, a structure, or perhaps a memory of one, stretching light years in diameter, rotating in impossible geometry, constructed from regret and time. The original cage, built by the architects to hold Veraden, powered by the collective agony of 1,000 extinct civilizations. And Earth, humanity, had been the key in the lock. Now the cage was broken, and Veraden was awake. The Empire fired first. Omega ZH-14 launched from the center of their formation, folding dimensions in a spiral of white flame. It hit Earth directly. There was no explosion, no scream, no flash, just a pause, the kind of silence where even thought dares not exist. Then came the echo, a single beat, like a god's heart starting after a long sleep. And then the impossible happened. The weapon unraveled, not destroyed, not resisted, unmade. Its memory erased from every ship's database, the knowledge of it plucked from the minds of every engineer who had ever worked on it. A total conceptual deletion. And in its place, a new word appeared in every Imperial tongue. Return. Not a command, a curse. The Imperial fleet turned around, not physically, existentially. Ships found themselves in reverse formation. Crews aged backward. Wounds healed, then reopened. One admiral screamed as her body rewound to childhood, then to birth, then to nothing. The Empress watched in horror from her throne, her last thought forming slowly as she realized what she was seeing. This isn't power. This is vengeance. Across the galaxy, humans continued disappearing. Only now, so did others. Species that had mocked humanity. Species that had experimented on them. Species that had profited from their pain. One by one they were called, not to fight, but to witness. Because what was rising was not just Veraden. It was the cost of containment. For millions of years the galaxy had pushed its sins into the dark, into the dirt, into the void. And Earth had held them all. Now Earth was done holding. Kyle stood on the highest peak of the Himalayas, now suspended in a fragment of space-time orbiting the core of the cage. The sky above was no longer blue. It was alive, moving, watching. The echo appeared beside her, not in physical form, but as a presence, stretching forever in every direction. "You kept them safe," she said. "They were never safe. They were just not ready." And now, they learn. The stars around them dimmed to black. A silence fell across the galaxy, the moment before the scream. It began with the stars. They didn't go out. They turned away. One by one, constellations across the galaxy slowly twisted, as if the universe itself was refusing to look at what had emerged from Earth's core. And then, Veraden stepped through. He didn't arrive in a ship. He didn't descend like a god. He unfolded like the last page of a book that had been waiting to be read. His form was everything and nothing. Towering, yes, but size didn't describe him. He was a thought-given shape, a regret too old to forget. Galaxies curved around his presence. Space wept. Time stuttered. To look at him was to remember every death that had ever happened, and everyone still to come. The cage that had held him, crafted by the other architects, now hung in tatters behind him, drifting in eternal orbit around what remained of Earth. The fragments of that prison pulsed with dying echoes of laws that no longer mattered. Laws Veraden had outgrown. He walked, not across space, through it. Where his feet touched, systems aged into extinction. Moons crumbled into dust. Memories faded from civilizations still alive. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. Every living being, across every sector, in every corner of the galaxy, dreamed of him. And in those dreams, Veraden whispered a single phrase. "You gave me silence. Now I return the favor." Kyle Monroe stood at the center of the eye, a suspended construct above Earth's new orbit, built not with metal but with understanding. Her body was no longer fully flesh. She had merged with the Echo's essence, not controlled by it, but partnered. She wasn't its prisoner, she was its anchor. Below her, Earth remained untouched. Green, blue, silent. Because humanity wasn't panicking. They were preparing. The signal that had gone out across human minds was not a call to arms, it was a reminder of who they were, of what they were built to contain, and of the choice now before them. Kyle knew what was coming. The Echo had shown her everything. Veradin's return wasn't a battle. There would be no war. There was no winning. There was only this: become or burn. She opened the last gate in her mind. Humanity responded. From every planet they had hidden on, every prison, every corner of space, humans rose. But not with guns. Not with fleets. They rose with memory. They began to remember things they'd never learned. How to bend light, how to speak across thought, how to shift gravity with emotion. It was a knowledge locked away in blood, encoded by the Echo, waiting for the right moment. And that moment had come. The children of Earth were not fighters. They were fragments of the same force that Veradin once was, now reactivated. The Empire was gone, not destroyed, absorbed. Its people stood frozen, staring at the sky, whispering names they didn't remember learning. The war machines stopped moving. The death drones fell still. The Empress. She no longer existed in one piece. Her soul had shattered and scattered. Some fragments became stars. Others, stories. Humanity stood at the precipice of evolution, not into conquerors, not into gods, but into keepers, guardians of balance, wielders of the forgotten. Kyle felt Veradin approaching Earth. His gaze was fire, his will final. She looked up and stepped forward. "I remember you," she said aloud. "I remember your fall. I remember your pain." Veradin slowed. He did not speak. She raised her hand. Behind her, 10 billion human minds joined hers. Together they offered not war, but mercy. A final chance to return to silence, to sleep again, not in exile, but in peace, and for a moment, for the briefest flicker in the forever of space. Veradin hesitated. Then he stepped back, his form blurred, cracked, and like a dream remembered too late, he dissolved. Into Kyle, into Earth, into us. The stars turned back, the universe exhaled, and Earth, still orbiting the remains of a broken cage, drifted forward into a new corner of space, uncharted, unnamed, untouched. From that day on, no empire dared claim it. Because they all knew humans don't fight wars, they contain them, they bury the unkillable, and if you see them coming, it's already too late.